Welcome back to Doug Pagitt Radio. It is November 22nd, 2009, final segment of the show where I try to bring up things that are right on in the world. You know, we call this religious radio. That's not quite right, but there are some things in the world that are just right. They're the way that they ought to be. They're things that we all ought to applaud for, that we all ought to cheer on, that we all ought to say, hey, this is a good thing going on. That's our final segment of most every week.
Hey,
Here on
I
Doug
like
Pagitt.
your attitude.
Here on Doug Pagitt Radio. I want to leave you on a positive note, knowing that good things are going on. On a little advertising note, a friend of mine is going to be joining us over at our church tonight. I am part of a church in Minneapolis called Solomon's Porch. You can find that at solomonsporch.com. And we're this little artistic, holistic, missional community over in Minneapolis. And a friend of mine named Ed Dobson is going to be joining us. He's touring a book that he has written called The Year of Living Like Jesus. He spent a year chronicling what it would be like if he were to follow all the things that Jesus said to do. So he spent a year doing that, sort of in the inspiration of A.J. Jacobs' book, The Year of Living Biblically from the Old Testament. He does that on the New Testament. He's going to be talking about that, and he's an interesting cat for a lot of reasons. He's been through a lot of changes. He's actually suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease and has been 9 years suffering with ALS. And in the course of that, over the last year, he did this Year of Living Like Jesus, and he's going to be sharing that story. So, would love to have you join us if that seems interesting to you at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock over at Solomon's Porch. You can find that at solomonsporch.com. Okay, impatience is an important thing that goes on in our world. We should be impatient, but there's a effort to invite people to not just be impatient, but to also be optimists, people who see the upside. And it's an effort put together by Bill and Melinda Gates, of all people. So the right on this week goes out to Bill and Melinda Gates. That's right, the founder of Microsoft and his wife. If you don't know, they have a foundation called the Gates Foundation. They're doing all sorts of good work over there at that Gates Foundation. In all honesty, I mean, it's stunning. As bad as the Windows platform can be for computing, it's amazing what good work they have done. And I don't know if some of you have made the shift over to that Windows 7. You know, I use a different operating system, so I don't have to worry much about that. But I haven't heard too much about if that's really changed people's lives. And I saw some television commercials, so I don't really know about the Windows 7. But they have started a project called the Living Proof Project, where they declare themselves to be impatient optimists, Bill and Melinda Gates. It's a great phrase. I want to jump right on that bandwagon. The impatient optimist is the one who recognizes the world is getting better. We are making advances in many areas. So we should be optimistic about what's going on. There are good things happening in the world. In their case, they're involved in world health issues. People with AIDS, malaria, polio, those kinds of things around the world. And what they like to say is the world is getting better, but not fast enough and not for everyone. So they're optimists, but they're impatient optimists. Well, this week, and you can Google search this or just go to the gatesfoundation.com website, they launched a program called the Living Proof Project, and they have these little testimonials from people around the world that say to the United States government, in fact, who the United States government has invested $8 billion this year in global health issues, and they have this project saying, I'm living proof that it works and things are getting better. They talk about the fact that child mortality around the world has dropped 50% in the last 50 years, and they think it can drop another 50% in the next 15. And so the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had this big gala, this big event going on, and this big presentation that you can watch the entire hour-long presentation on the website over there at the Gates Foundation, where they say thank you to the U.S. government and to the United States people for programs that have worked around the world in the last year. And they have these statistics that are really quite stunning, frankly, that the United States investing $8 billion this year, that's up from $1 billion in 2001, an 8 times increase in world health and the kind of goodness that has brought to people all around the world, especially the young and especially to women. So there's a lot of things that, in the economy did not go well in the last 8 years. There's a number of things in foreign policy that did not go well out of this U.S. government in the last 8 years. There's a number of things that happened in the United States economy that did not go well in the last 8 years. There's a number of things that happened in deregulation in the last 8 years that did not go well. But not all things were horrible in the last 8 years. Our commitment to world health in this nation in the last 8 years is a massive increase, 8 times increase from $1 billion in 2000 to $8 billion, which might seem like a lot. Now here's the amazing thing on these statistics. The $8 billion that the United States invests in world health causes, stopping malaria, vaccines for polio, AIDS clinics around the world, specifically in Africa. We contribute $8 billion a year, and that is 1/4 of all that's invested in global health. The United States invests 1/4 of it all, $8 billion. Just imagine if the rest of the world chipped in a little more, or if the United States even invested more in world health. For those who get concerned that $8 billion is a lot, and those who get concerned that the United States shouldn't be investing that kind of money in the midst of global economic and United States economic crisis, that is 0.22% of the U.S. budget. It's a fraction of 1%. It is a teeny amount of the $4 trillion that the federal government spends, and massively more than that that's spent by the states. So it is a teeny amount, less than 0.5% of what the U.S. spends on its other programs. In fact, the United States only invests 1% outside the United States in foreign aid altogether. You take all of it all together, and only 0.22% of all that the United States spends goes to helping around the world. But that investment of $8 billion from the United States government has made massive, massive improvements. So they put together this program to say thank you, to say it's working, to say hang in there. We are optimistic about the future, but we're impatient and it's not enough. Now here's the stunning statistic that they just sort of threw out in the midst of this presentation. Bill and Melinda Gates talking about their foundation, which isn't just their money, it's other organizations too. Includes Warren Buffett's money and some other people's big dollar amounts. The United States government invests $8 billion in world health issues. The Gates Foundation this last year invested $1 billion, $1.8 billion actually. The whole United States government, $8 billion. The Gates Foundation, $1.8. Almost a quarter of what the United States government gives, this one foundation contributes to world health. He said, we're committed for the long haul, and we're going to put money in, and we are going to change the way that world health goes. We are going to correct the injustice that has gone on with so many people suffering from illnesses that they should not suffer from, especially among the poor, especially among women, and especially among children. So, the right on this week, the way to go goes to the Living Proof Project of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, people who've said, we have a lot and we're going to contribute a lot and we're going to make a massive amount of difference in the world, putting in their own $1.8 billion and shining a light on the fact that good things are happening in this world. So to the impatient optimists out there, hang in there, keep doing the good work, keep striving forward, and those of you who are contributing in your own way to making this world a better place, thank you. Thank you to the United States for investing in world health. Doug Pagitt Radio, religious radio that's not quite right on AM 950, the Progressive Talk Station.